In a world where the shine of luxury cars often blinds us to the reality of inequality, one man's journey to buy a dream vehicle took an unexpected turn. Imagine walking into a high-end dealership, your heart racing with excitement, only to face dismissive glances and condescending attitudes. This was the harsh reality for Marcus, a black man with aspirations as high as the sleek cars he admired. He dreamed of cruising the city streets in a brand new luxury vehicle, the kind that would not only elevate his lifestyle, but also redefine how the world perceived him. Little did he know that the path to his dream would become a battleground of dignity and respect. On a sunny afternoon, Marcus stepped into the dealership, the gleaming cars reflecting his aspirations. He had worked tirelessly, saving every penny, and the moment had finally arrived. With a firm grip on his wallet and a determination to make his mark, he approached the sales team, ready to turn his dream into reality. However, the reception he received was far from welcoming. Instead of enthusiasm, he was met with skepticism and dismissive remarks. The employees exchanged glances, their laughter echoing in the air, as if his presence was a joke. They looked at his worn sneakers and faded jeans, making assumptions that stung like a slap. Marcus felt the weight of their judgment, but he refused to let their actions define him. Instead of walking away defeated, he took a deep breath and channeled his frustration into resolve. He understood that their ignorance didn't reflect his worth, but it ignited a fire within him. The tension in the air thickened as he considered his next move. Would he confront them? Would he walk out, allowing their humiliation to win? No, Marcus was not one to back down easily. He decided that he would play the long game, and his determination to succeed would be the best response to their disdain. As he calmly perused the showroom, Marcus's mind raced with thoughts of how he could turn this negative experience into something that would leave the employees speechless. He had a plan brewing, and it involved more than just purchasing a car. This was about making a statement, about proving that he was more than their prejudiced assumptions. He envisioned the moment they would realize that their mockery had only fueled his ambition, transforming humiliation into empowerment. The dealership buzzed with activity, and as the employees continued to chatter and chuckle among themselves, Marcus quietly plotted his next move. He knew that the luxury car he sought was within reach, but it was what came next that would truly surprise them. As the hours passed, the tension in the showroom shifted. The employees began to sense an impending change. Marcus was not just another customer, he was on a mission. With each passing moment, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Would they recognize his worth before it was too late? Would they be prepared for the shock of what he was about to do? As the day unfolded, Marcus's resolve grew stronger. He was ready to turn the tables, to showcase his tenacity in a way that would leave the employees reeling. As he made his way to the desk to finalize his intentions, a sense of determination washed over him. The employees, still oblivious to what lay ahead, continued their banter, their laughter still echoing in his ears. But what they didn't realize was that Marcus was about to flip the script entirely. The very luxury they had ridiculed him for wanting was now going to become the stage for his triumphant moment. But just as he was about to unveil his grand plan, the showroom doors swung open and a figure entered that would complicate everything. The atmosphere shifted again, tension coiling tighter than before. Who was this newcomer? How would they influence Marcus's next steps? The employees glanced at each other, a hint of concern creeping into their expressions. In that instant, Marcus felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. He stood at the precipice of something big, the stakes higher than ever. With a deep breath, he prepared for the confrontation that would follow, leaving everyone, especially the mocking employees, on the edge of their seats. This was just the beginning of a story that would challenge perceptions, ignite conversations, and ultimately change lives. What would happen next? The answer was just around the corner, and it would shake the very foundation of their assumptions. Stay tuned, because Marcus's journey was far from over, and the climax was about to unfold in ways nobody could have predicted. As the figure stepped into the dealership, the tension thickened, filling the air like a brewing storm. Marcus glanced over, curiosity peaking in his mind. He saw a woman, tall and confident, with an air of authority that immediately drew his attention. Her attire was sharp-tailored suit, polished shoes, and a presence that spoke volumes. The employees, previously consumed in their laughter, suddenly straightened their posture, their demeanor shifting from casual to professional. It was as if a switch had been flipped. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice clear and commanding. "I'm here to speak with the manager about a potential partnership. We have some big clients interested in luxury vehicles." The way she spoke was assertive yet approachable, instantly captivating Marcus. He couldn't help but wonder who she was and what power she wielded in this world of luxury cars. The employees hastily gathered around her, a stark contrast to how they had treated Marcus just moments before. The dynamic shift intrigued him. Here was someone who seemed to have their respect, their attention, everything he had been denied simply because of their preconceived notions. As they began discussing numbers and specifications, Marcus felt a familiar fire burning inside him. He was determined to ensure that the employees wouldn't forget who he was. While the conversation unfolded, Marcus leaned against a sleek black sports car, pretending to be absorbed in its design, but actually eavesdropping. He picked up bits of conversation, something about exclusive deals, elite clientele, and how the dealership was missing out on opportunities. Each word made his heart race, fueling his desire to prove that he was worthy of being treated with the same respect as anyone else. This was more than just a purchase. This was a chance to challenge the status quo. His gaze flickered back to the woman. She was captivating, and it was clear that she commanded authority. There was something in her expression, a fierce determination, and an undeniable confidence. As the employees nodded along, occasionally throwing glances toward Marcus, he felt a strange kinship with her. She too seemed to understand the weight of judgment, the burden of expectations. The manager approached the group, all smiles, his demeanor now polite and attentive. "We appreciate your interest in partnering with us. I'm sure we can work something out." Marcus observed closely, noting how the atmosphere had shifted. It was as if this woman had flipped a switch that illuminated the value of respect, professionalism, and possibility. It was a reminder of how easily the tides could turn based on perception alone. As the conversation continued, Marcus began to formulate his plan. He wouldn't let this opportunity slip away. If this woman could command respect, maybe he could do the same. He had the funds, the determination, and the desire to purchase that luxury car. But he needed more than just the ability to buy. He needed the strength to stand his ground. With a deep breath, Marcus stepped away from the car and walked towards the group. He felt the eyes of the employees on him, their surprise palpable, as they noticed him approaching the manager and the mysterious woman. "Excuse me," he interjected, his voice steady but laced with tension. "I'd like to speak to you about purchasing a vehicle as well." The group turned to him, the woman raising an eyebrow with intrigue. "Of course," she replied, a slight smile playing on her lips. "What are you interested in?" "I've been looking at the new models," Marcus said, his confidence building. "I've done my research, and I know what I want." The manager's expression flickered between confusion and annoyance, but the woman nodded, encouraging him to continue. The banter continued, but Marcus could feel the shift in energy. He wasn't just another customer, he was a contender in a game that he was determined to win. The employees' condescending smiles had turned into tight-lipped expressions of curiosity. He could almost see the gears turning in their minds as they wondered what his next move would be. The discussion shifted back to business, the woman detailing the needs of her clients, throwing in numbers and figures that danced in the air like a challenge. Marcus listened intently, piecing together information that would empower his negotiation. He knew the game. He had played it in different arenas throughout his life. "Can I see the latest models?" Marcus asked, his eyes glinting with determination. The manager hesitated, looking toward the woman, who nodded, encouraging him to indulge Marcus. The tension in the room became electric as they led Marcus to the back of the showroom, away from the prying eyes of the other employees. The sleek lines and polished surfaces of the cars reflected the light like jewels, each one representing a dream. He could feel the weight of his aspirations growing heavier on his shoulders, and he knew he had to seize the moment. As they reached the back, Marcus could hear the muffled sounds of laughter and chatter from the employees who had dismissed him earlier. It felt surreal to think that just moments ago, he had been the butt of their jokes, and now he stood among the luxury cars as an equal. "Here we are," the manager said, gesturing to a stunning array of vehicles. Each car seemed to whisper promises of freedom and prestige. Marcus's heart raced at the sight. "We have a range of options. Feel free to take a closer look." He moved closer, letting his fingers glide along the smooth surfaces. Each car had its own personality, its own story to tell. But as he walked, he couldn't shake the feeling of the employee's scorn echoing in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to make them understand the journey that had brought him here. "Do you have any questions?" the manager asked, breaking Marcus from his thoughts. "We can arrange for a test drive if you're interested." Marcus nodded, his mind racing. "I want to take one out," he said, deciding to embrace the moment fully. "I want to feel what it's like to drive my dream." The manager hesitated for a moment, glancing at the woman, who smiled and nodded her approval. "All right," he said, finally conceding. "Let's get everything set up." As they prepared for the test drive, Marcus noticed the employees peeking through the glass, their expressions a mix of confusion and disbelief. Their laughter had faded, replaced by an air of uncertainty. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing that he was no longer just a bystander in their world. He was making his mark. With the keys in hand, Marcus climbed into the luxury car, the interior rich with leather and technology. He felt like he was sitting in a spaceship, ready to conquer the world. The engine roared to life, a sound that filled him with exhilaration. This was a moment he had worked hard for, a moment that had been tainted by the ridicule he had faced. But now it was a moment he would seize. "Ready?" the manager asked, excitement dancing in his eyes. "Let's go," Marcus replied, determination solidifying in his voice. He stepped on the gas, and the car surged forward, merging seamlessly into the road. The city unfolded before him, a blur of lights and colors, as he sped through the streets. The thrill was intoxicating. This was freedom from judgment, from ridicule, and from the constraints of others' opinions. Marcus's heart raced as he navigated the streets, the wind whipping through his hair. Every curve, every turn, felt like a celebration of his resilience. But as he rounded a corner, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The dealership, with all its power dynamics and unspoken judgments, was still fresh in his mind. How would the employees react when he returned? Would they accept him as one of their own, or would they continue to view him through the lens of their prejudices? With each passing minute, the adrenaline fueled Marcus's determination to confront the reality of the situation. He was not just driving a luxury car, he was driving towards a moment of truth. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the city, a perfect metaphor for the change he was seeking. After a fulfilling drive, he returned to the dealership, parking the car with precision. As he stepped out, he could feel the eyes of the employees on him again, their gazes now a mixture of intrigue and uncertainty. He was no longer the outsider, he was a contender in their world. The woman approached him, her smile genuine this time. "You did well out there. You have a good sense of driving." "Thank you," Marcus replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. "But it's not just about driving, it's about proving that I belong here." As they spoke, the manager arrived, ready to discuss the potential sale. "You've impressed everyone today," he said, his tone respectful. "Let's talk numbers." But as they began to negotiate, Marcus noticed the employees whispering among themselves. He could see the surprise on their faces, the realization that they had misjudged him. The tension crackled in the air, thickening with every passing second. They were beginning to see him not as a customer, but as a person, a man with dreams and aspirations, just like everyone else. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted again when the woman spoke up, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "We need to set a standard here," she declared. "Every customer deserves respect, and every purchase is significant." Marcus's heart raced as the employees exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from confusion to realization. She was challenging the very culture of the dealership, and he felt a surge of hope that perhaps things could change. But just as the conversation began to shift, a familiar face appeared at the entrance. It was an old acquaintance from Marcus's past, someone he had hoped never to see again. The tension in the room escalated, a ripple of unease spreading through the group. Marcus's heart sank as memories flooded back, bitter reminders of his struggles, his failures, and the journey that had brought him here. The newcomer approached, a sly smile on their face that sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. Well, if it isn't our little dreamer," they taunted, their voice dripping with condescension. "What brings you back to this part of town?" The employees shifted uncomfortably, sensing the change in dynamics. The woman stood firm beside Marcus, her eyes narrowing at the intruder. "This isn't the place for your games," she said, her voice steady. "He's here to make a serious purchase, and I suggest you back off." Marcus felt a mixture of gratitude and embarrassment. Here was someone standing up for him, yet he could feel the weight of the past dragging him down. The intruder merely laughed, their presence suffocating. "A serious purchase? I doubt he has what it takes. After all, he's just a nobody trying to be somebody." The tension reached a breaking point as the employees looked from Marcus to the intruder, their eyes wide with disbelief. But rather than retreat, Marcus felt an unexpected surge of confidence. This was his moment, not just to prove himself, but to assert his place in a world that had long overlooked him. "You don't know me," Marcus said, his voice low but steady. "And you don't know what I've accomplished. You think you can intimidate me? I've faced far worse than your taunts." The room fell silent as his words hung in the air, the gravity of his declaration resonating with everyone present. The woman beside him nodded in approval, her expression fierce and unwavering. Marcus could feel the tide turning. No longer would he let others dictate his worth. As the intruder faltered, trying to regroup, Marcus seized the moment. "I'm here to buy a car, not to engage in your petty games. I'm not just a customer, I'm a person who has fought for every opportunity." The manager's face shifted from shock to admiration as he watched the confrontation unfold. The employees too seemed captivated by Marcus's newfound confidence. He had turned the tables, and they were witnessing a transformation in real time. With the weight of the past still lingering, Marcus took a step forward, feeling a sense of clarity. He would not allow this moment to be overshadowed by old shadows. He was here to claim his place, to rewrite his narrative. The intruder, realizing they had lost their grip, finally backed away. "You'll regret this," they spat, their voice dripping with venom before they turned and left the dealership, leaving behind an echo of uncertainty. The tension in the room shifted again, replaced by a sense of relief and possibility. The woman turned to Marcus, her smile bright. "That was impressive. You really showed them." "Thanks," Marcus replied, feeling a mixture of triumph and vulnerability. "But it's just the beginning. I want to ensure that everyone is treated with respect, just like I deserve." The employees began to murmur amongst themselves, their expressions shifting from skepticism to respect. The dynamics had changed, and Marcus felt a surge of power in that moment. He had not only fought for his place, but had inspired a shift in the culture of the dealership. As the negotiations resumed, the atmosphere was markedly different. The manager was attentive, and the employees were engaged, nodding along as Marcus articulated his vision. They were beginning to see him not just as a customer, but as a leader, a person with the potential to change their perspective. But amidst the excitement, Marcus could still feel the shadows of doubt creeping in. Would this shift be sustainable? Or would they revert to their old ways, once the novelty wore off? He was determined to find out. As they wrapped up discussions, Marcus made a decision. He would return to the dealership regularly, not just to make purchases, but to advocate for a culture of respect. He wanted to ensure that no one else felt the sting of judgment he had experienced. With his newfound purpose, Marcus felt lighter, the weight of his past slowly dissipating. He was ready to step into his future, not just as a buyer of luxury cars, but as an agent of change. As he left the dealership, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city. He took a moment to appreciate the view, the skyline, bathed in twilight hues, a reminder of the beauty that lay ahead. This was a new beginning, and he would embrace every moment of it. The journey would be challenging, but he was ready to face whatever came his way. After all, he had already fought against the odds, and he knew that with determination and courage, he could carve out a place for himself, one that was defined by respect, authenticity, and possibility. Little did he know, the shadows from his past were not far behind. The intruder's words echoed in his mind, a reminder that the battle for acceptance was ongoing. As he navigated the streets, the weight of uncertainty lingered, but so did the fire of his determination. He would not let his journey be defined by the doubts of others. Back at home, as Marcus sat down with a glass of water, he felt the adrenaline begin to ebb. It had been a long day, filled with unexpected turns and new beginnings. But as he reflected on the events, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play. The dealership was just a microcosm of a larger world, a world filled with judgments, expectations, and challenges. As he began to unwind, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from the dealership, confirming their agreement to finalize the purchase. Excitement bubbled within him, but alongside it was a nagging feeling that this was merely the beginning. He needed to remain vigilant, for the shadows of his past were often disguised in the form of familiar faces. With a deep breath, Marcus set his glass down and turned his focus to the future. He would seize every opportunity that came his way, remaining steadfast in his resolve to challenge the status quo. As the night deepened, he formulated plans for his next visit to the dealership. He envisioned workshops and community events, ways to foster a culture of inclusivity. His mind raced with ideas, each one adding layers to his vision. The sound of the city outside drifted into his thoughts, a reminder that life continued to move forward, regardless of the challenges faced. He would not be a bystander in his own life. He would take the wheel and steer his own course. Hours passed as he penned down his thoughts, each word flowing freely, shaping his vision. The shadows of doubt still lingered, but with each passing moment, they became less powerful, eclipsed by the light of possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he felt ready to embrace them. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with potential twists and turns, but he was prepared to navigate it all. With a final glance at his notes, Marcus smiled, feeling a sense of determination wash over him. The journey was just beginning, and he was ready to see where it would lead. ASS. The sun rose the next day, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange. Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. The dealership had transformed from a mere place of transactions into a canvas for his vision of inclusivity and respect. With his notes in hand, he planned to outline his ideas for community engagement, workshops, and a series of initiatives aimed at changing the culture around luxury purchases. However, the previous day's encounter lingered in his mind, an unwelcome reminder of the past he was trying to escape. Arriving at the dealership, Marcus was met with an atmosphere buzzing with anticipation. Employees greeted him with newfound respect, nodding in acknowledgement of the previous day's events. The manager, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a welcoming smile, approached him, eager to discuss their plans. "Marcus, I'm glad you're here. We've been talking about your ideas and want to make this place more inviting for everyone," he said, clapping Marcus on the back. The positive energy was infectious, and Marcus felt his excitement build as he shared his ideas. They discussed plans for customer appreciation days, mentorship programs for new buyers, and workshops to educate potential customers about the purchasing process. He could feel the team rallying around his vision, the sense of camaraderie palpable. But as the day progressed, the atmosphere shifted. A sudden hush fell over the employees when a familiar figure entered the showroom. It was the intruder from yesterday, looking just as confident as before, but now flanked by two intimidating associates. Marcus's heart sank, a cold sweat forming on his brow. This was not just a return, it was an invasion. The intruder's smile was sharp, eyes glinting with mischief. "I didn't expect to see you here again, Marcus. I thought you'd learn your place," they taunted, their voice dripping with disdain. The employees exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the tension in the room thickening. Marcus stepped forward, drawing on the courage he had found the day before. "This isn't your place to dictate. I'm here to make a difference, and I won't let you intimidate anyone," he declared, his voice steady but laced with urgency. The intruder laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Oh, but you misunderstand. I'm not here to intimidate. I'm here to offer you a proposition," they said, their tone shifting, a sly smile creeping onto their face. "You see, you've caught the eye of some powerful people, and they're interested in you, interested in what you could bring to their operations." Curiosity mixed with confusion flooded Marcus's mind. "What are you talking about? Who are you representing?" he asked, wary of the intentions behind their words. "Let's just say, there are those who appreciate your tenacity," the intruder replied, leaning closer, their voice a conspiratorial whisper. "But there's a catch. You need to play along with our game, and perhaps you can avoid the trouble that follows you." The implication hung heavy in the air, the threat veiled but unmistakable. The atmosphere was electric with tension as Marcus processed the unexpected twist. It was one thing to face an old adversary, it was another to find himself thrust into a world of power plays and hidden agendas. The respect he had earned from the dealership employees now felt precarious, like a sandcastle on the shore, ready to be swept away by the tide. "What kind of trouble are you talking about?" Marcus pressed, his heart racing. He could feel the weight of the past pressing down on him, memories of betrayal and manipulation swirling around him. The game had changed, and he had to navigate it carefully. The intruder's smile widened, eyes glimmering with malice. "Let's just say, your past isn't as buried as you think. People have long memories, especially when they've been wronged. You wouldn't want those memories to resurface, would you?" Their words cut deep, like a knife twisting in an open wound. Marcus's mind raced, memories flooding back mistakes he had made, people he had disappointed, bridges he had burned. The shadows of his past loomed larger than ever, threatening to engulf him. He fought to maintain his composure, glancing at the employees who were now watching with bated breath. This was more than just a car purchase. It was about his future and the legacy he hoped to build. "I'm not afraid of my past," Marcus replied, trying to assert his strength. "What do you want from me?" "Just a little cooperation," the intruder said, a glint of satisfaction in their eyes. "You're in a position to influence this dealership, to sway customers, and we could use someone like you on our side. There's a lot of money to be made if you know how to play the game. Think about it. Your vision could align with our interests, and together, we could make a fortune." The proposal hung in the air, heavy and insidious. Marcus felt the weight of temptation pull at him, the allure of easy money battling with his principles. He thought about what he could accomplish with the resources and connections the intruder was offering. But the price of such an alliance felt dangerously high. He squared his shoulders, defiance flashing in his eyes. "I'm not interested in your games. I'm here to make a difference, not to compromise my values," he said firmly. But doubt gnawed at him. What if standing his ground put everything he had worked for in jeopardy? The intruder's expression darkened, the jovial facade slipping away. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, do you? You think you can just walk away from this? There are consequences for your decisions, and trust me, you don't want to see what happens when we get angry," they warned, the threat palpable. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine, but he stood tall, refusing to show weakness. "I won't be intimidated. If you think you can threaten me into compliance, you're mistaken," he said, holding the intruder's gaze, forcing himself not to falter. The tension crackled like static in the air, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. The intruder's associates shifted, casting uneasy glances, sensing the potential for conflict. It was a standoff, and Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing in on him. Finally, the intruder stepped back, their expression a mix of frustration and intrigue. "We'll see how long that bravado lasts. But remember, Marcus, we'll be watching. You can't escape your past forever," they said, turning on their heel and walking away, their associates following close behind. As the intruder exited the dealership, the atmosphere began to shift again, the tension dissipating slowly, but leaving behind an undercurrent of unease. Employees whispered among themselves, casting wary glances at Marcus, who felt a mix of relief and lingering dread. The manager approached, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" "That was intense," he said, his voice low. "Yeah, I'll be fine," Marcus replied, but the words felt hollow. He could still feel the weight of the intruder's threat, a shadow that threatened to overshadow everything he had begun to build. The confrontation had stirred something deep within him, a reminder that the journey toward respect and acceptance was fraught with challenges, and the past was never truly behind him. As the day wore on, Marcus found it increasingly difficult to focus. The intruder's words echoed in his mind, a relentless reminder of the precarious balance he had to maintain. He could feel the shadows closing in, the potential for conflict simmering just below the surface. The idea of collaboration with a shady entity began to haunt him, and he found himself questioning his decisions. At home that night, he sat at his kitchen table, his notes sprawled before him, untouched. Instead of the hopeful plans he had envisioned, he found himself grappling with the harsh reality of his situation. The intruder had not just threatened his business. They had reopened old wounds, dredging up fears and insecurities he thought he had buried. His phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. It was a message from the woman who had stood by him during the confrontation, her name flashing on the screen. "Hey, just checking in. How are you holding up?" Grateful for the distraction, Marcus typed a quick response, his fingers hovering over the screen. He wanted to share his concerns, but hesitated, unsure of how to convey the turmoil within him. Instead, he settled for a simple, "I'm doing okay. Just a long day. Want to talk about it?" She replied almost instantly, her concern palpable through the screen. Marcus paused, considering her offer. The weight of the intruder's threat felt heavy on his chest, and he yearned for someone to confide in, someone who could understand the complexities of his situation. He took a deep breath, deciding to be open. "Actually, I could use someone to talk to. Things got a little intense at the dealership today. Want to meet up?" "I'm free if you are," she responded, and Marcus felt a flicker of relief. A friendly face, a listening ear. Maybe it would help him regain some perspective. "Sure, let's meet at that coffee shop down the street," he suggested, feeling the tension begin to ease just a bit. "Sounds good. See you in 20, she replied, and Marcus quickly changed out of his work clothes, hoping the caffeine and conversation would clear his mind. When he arrived at the coffee shop, he spotted her sitting at a corner table, her expression thoughtful as she sipped her drink. She looked up and smiled as he approached, a warm light in her eyes that immediately put him at ease. "Hey, you look like you've been through the ringer," she said, concern etched in her features as they hugged. "Just a bit of drama at work," Marcus replied, sitting across from her. He could already feel the weight on his shoulders begin to lift as he shared the story of the intruder, his voice growing stronger as he recounted the confrontation. Her brow furrowed as she listened intently, nodding at key moments. "That's insane. It sounds like they're trying to manipulate you," she said, her voice low but urgent. "You've worked so hard to turn things around. Don't let them derail you." "I know. but it's hard not to feel the weight of my past, especially when it's thrown back in my face like that," Marcus admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I thought I was moving forward, but now I feel like I'm back in the thick of it." "Have you thought about talking to someone about it? A mentor or a professional?" she suggested, her tone gentle yet firm. Marcus considered it, but the thought of exposing his vulnerabilities to anyone else felt daunting. "I don't want to appear weak," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. "You're navigating a lot right now," she reminded him, her eyes earnest. "You need a support system. You can't do this alone." Her words resonated with him, and for the first time, he allowed himself to consider the possibility of reaching out. The conversation turned lighter as they shared stories, laughter punctuating the air, but the shadows of the intruder's threat loomed over Marcus, an ever-present reminder of the stakes at play. As they finished their drinks, Marcus felt a sense of clarity emerging from the chaos. "Thanks for listening. I really needed this," he said, gratitude spilling from him. "Anytime. Just remember, you're not alone in this. You have people who care," she replied, offering him a reassuring smile. After parting ways, Marcus felt lighter, but the weight of the intruder's threat still hung over him like a storm cloud. He had made a commitment to stand firm, but the challenges ahead felt insurmountable. The next day, he arrived at the dealership with a renewed sense of determination. The conversations and camaraderie from the previous days seemed to ripple through the air, igniting a spark of hope. Yet, as he settled into his routine, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Glancing over his shoulder constantly, he was hyper-aware of every interaction, every whisper. It was as if the shadows from his past had taken on a life of their own, lurking in every corner of the dealership. During a particularly busy afternoon, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement as a high-profile customer visited the showroom. The employees rallied, eager to impress, and Marcus found himself in the thick of it, guiding the customer through the selection process. As he showcased the latest models, he felt a sense of accomplishment surging within him, but the nagging worry of the intruder's threat persisted in the back of his mind. Just as he was beginning to feel a sense of normalcy return, the doors swung open again, and the intruder stepped back into the dealership. This time, they wore a tailored suit, exuding confidence and power, but it was the sinister smile on their face that sent chills down Marcus's spine. "Back so soon?" Marcus forced himself to say, his voice strained but defiant. The intruder's eyes glinted with a mix of amusement and menace. "I couldn't resist seeing how my little investment was doing," they said, glancing around the showroom as if assessing its value. Marcus clenched his fists, fury bubbling beneath the surface. "I told you, I'm not interested in your games," he snapped, but doubt gnawed at him. He had fought to gain this position, and the prospect of losing it terrified him. "Oh, but this is no game, Marcus. It's a business opportunity," the intruder replied smoothly, leaning closer. "You're already making waves, and I could help you ride that wave further. All you have to do is play nice." "I won't be your pawn," Marcus said, the words feeling more like a plea than a declaration. The stakes were rising, and the tension in the air became palpable. The energy in the showroom shifting as employees watched the confrontation unfold, their eyes wide with anxiety. The intruder chuckled, the sound cold and calculating. "You think you can resist? You're already entangled in a web far more complex than you realize. Your vision could mean a lot of money, but you'll need our resources to truly make it happen." Marcus's heart raced, the weight of his decisions pressing down on him. He had fought to stand his ground, but the reality of the situation was setting in. The shadows from his past were closing in, and he felt cornered, a sense of desperation creeping in. "Leave me alone," he said, his voice quivering with emotion. "I don't need you, and I won't be a part of your world." The intruder's expression darkened, their smile faltering. "Oh, Marcus, you have no idea how interconnected everything is. I suggest you think carefully about your next move. You don't want to find yourself on the wrong side of the people I represent." As the intruder stepped back, a tense silence enveloped the showroom. Marcus felt the weight of their words, the gravity of the situation pressing heavily on his chest. They turned to leave, but not before casting one last lingering glance over their shoulder, the threat palpable. The sense of dread settled in Marcus's stomach like a lead weight. He had ventured into dangerous waters, and now he was caught in a current he could not control. The stakes had never been higher, and with every passing moment, he felt the walls closing in around him. In the days that followed, the tension in the dealership escalated. Employees exchanged worried glances, and whispers of uncertainty rippled through the air. Marcus tried to focus on his vision for the dealership, but the shadow of the intruder loomed larger with each passing day. Then, late one night, as he sat alone in the dealership, poring over plans for the upcoming customer appreciation event, a sudden noise broke the stillness. The sound of footsteps echoed through the showroom, sending a shiver down his spine. Marcus's heart raced as he grabbed his phone, ready to call for help. But before he could dial, the front doors swung open, and in walked the intruder once more. This time accompanied by a group of stern-looking individuals. Their presence exuded authority, and Marcus felt a jolt of fear course through him. "Ah, Marcus, just the person I wanted to see," intruder said, a smug grin on their face. "I brought some friends to discuss your future." Panic surged through him as he took a step back, adrenaline flooding his system. "What do you want from me?" he demanded, trying to sound braver than he felt. "We're here to offer you a choice," the intruder replied, gesturing to the group behind them. "You can either cooperate with us and secure your position in this industry, or we can make things difficult for you. It's entirely up to you." Marcus's mind raced, the implications of their words sinking in. The specter of his past loomed larger, and he felt trapped in a web of manipulation. The stakes had never been higher, and he knew he had to make a choice, one that would determine not only his future, but also the future of the dealership he had fought so hard to transform. As the confrontation unfolded, Marcus's heart raced, fear and defiance warring within him. The threat was real, and he could feel the tension in the air thickening as he faced the group, every instinct screaming for him to run. But there was nowhere to go. "I won't let you intimidate me," Marcus declared, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. "You can't bully me into submission." The intruder's smile faded, replaced by a cold glare. "You may want to reconsider your stance. We have ways of making things uncomfortable for you if you choose to resist." Just as Marcus felt the weight of despair creeping in, he heard a voice behind him, firm and unwavering. "You'll have to go through me first," it said, cutting through the tension like a knife. It was the manager, stepping forward, his expression resolute. Surprised, Marcus turned to see the manager standing tall, a protective aura surrounding him. "This is our dealership, and we won't be intimidated by threats," he declared, voice steady. The intruder's eyes narrowed, anger flickering across their face. "You think you can stand against us? You're just a pawn in this game." The manager's expression remained unfazed. "Maybe so, but we won't be pawns any longer. We're building something here, and we won't let you destroy it." The standoff hung in the air, a palpable tension enveloping them as they faced off against the intruder and their associates. Marcus felt a surge of hope at the manager's unexpected support, realizing they were not alone in this fight. The intruder, sensing the shift in power, took a step back, a calculating look crossing their face. "This isn't over, Marcus. You may have won this round, but I promise you, I will return," they warned, their voice laced with venom. As they turned to leave, the group following suit, Marcus felt a mix of relief and dread. The confrontation had intensified the stakes, and he knew the intruder would not back down easily. The threat was far from resolved, and now it loomed larger than ever. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the dealership grew increasingly tense. The manager's unexpected display of support had ignited a spark of determination within Marcus, but the shadows of uncertainty still loomed over them. As he worked to strengthen the dealership's foundation, he couldn't shake the feeling that the intruder was always one step ahead, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to strike again. The stakes were rising, and Marcus felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. But he was not one to back down. With the support of his team, he vowed to fight back, determined to protect everything he had worked so hard to build. The intruder may have thought they had the upper hand, but Marcus was ready to take a stand. As he strategized his next move, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, a fierce determination igniting within him. He would not let fear dictate his choices. He would confront the challenges head-on and protect the dealership from the looming threat. Yet, even as he prepared for the battles ahead, Marcus couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the intruder's words would haunt him. The threat had become personal, and he knew that the path ahead would be fraught with uncertainty and danger. But one thing was certain: he would fight for what he believed in, even if it meant facing his darkest fears. The tension in the air crackled with possibility as Marcus prepared to step into the unknown, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that the true fight for his future had only just begun. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere at the dealership became thick with tension. Marcus felt it in every conversation, every glance exchanged among the staff. The looming presence of the intruder was a constant reminder that they were in the midst of a high-stakes game, and the rules seemed to change with every passing moment. The threat wasn't just external, it seeped into the very fabric of their daily operations, making every decision feel like a gamble. Marcus knew he had to act. He spent his nights poring over documents, creating strategies that would not only protect the dealership, but also position them as a formidable force in the luxury car market. With each new idea he developed, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. He began to implement changes, focusing on enhancing the customer experience and making the dealership more appealing. The goal was not just to stay afloat, but to thrive despite the chaos around them. His determination didn't go unnoticed. Employees began to rally behind him, inspired by his resolve. They met in the back room to brainstorm new marketing strategies, dream up community events, and create a more inclusive atmosphere. As they shared ideas, laughter broke the tension, and for a moment, the threat outside seemed to fade. But deep down, Marcus knew this was just a temporary reprieve. Among the employees was Jenna, a young sales associate with a keen instinct for understanding customer needs. She had been quietly observing the changes Marcus was implementing and felt a sense of camaraderie with him. They began collaborating more closely, and Jenna often brought new ideas to the table that aligned perfectly with Marcus's vision. One day, as they sat together after hours, Jenna leaned in, her voice low but urgent. "Have you thought about reaching out to the community? Maybe a charity event or a partnership with local businesses could not only boost our reputation, but also help us build a stronger network." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "That's a great idea. If we can connect with community, it will show that we're invested in more than just selling cars. It might even help us gain some leverage against our competitors," he replied, feeling the spark of inspiration igniting. They decided to move forward with planning an event, pooling their resources and ideas. They envisioned a community day where families could come in for free car safety workshops, test drives, and activities for children. The goal was to create an environment where people felt welcomed and valued. Marcus felt a sense of excitement building as they mapped out their plans, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were still being watched. Meanwhile, the intruder lurked in the shadows, their presence a constant reminder of the conflict that had taken root in Marcus's life. They seemed to have their ear to the ground as rumors of Marcus's community initiative reached them. It was clear that they were not going to sit back and allow him to succeed without interference. One evening, as Marcus was leaving the dealership, he received a text from Jenna. "We need to talk. Urgent." The message sent a chill down his spine. He quickly made his way back inside, his mind racing with possibilities of what could have gone wrong. When he arrived, Jenna was pacing the office, her face pale. "I overheard some of the other salespeople talking. They're not just worried about the intruder, they think you might be in over your head," she said, her voice trembling. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, confusion clouding his thoughts. "They're saying that if you can't handle the pressure, they might need to distance themselves from you. They don't want to get caught in the crossfire if things go south," she explained, her eyes wide with concern. Marcus felt the weight of her words settle heavily on him. He had poured everything into this dealership, and the thought of losing the support of his team was a crushing blow. "I can't let that happen," he said firmly. "I need to show them that we're capable of more than just surviving. We need to keep pushing forward, together." Jenna nodded, her expression resolute. "You're right. We just need to remind them of what we're capable of. Let's set a date for the event and start promoting it. If we can pull this off, it might change their minds." As they worked late into the night, strategizing ways to rally the team and promote their event, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to prove not only to himself, but to everyone around him, that they could stand strong against the encroaching threat. However, just as he was finding his footing, the intruder made their move. The following week, the dealership was thrown into chaos when a series of pranks began to unfold. It started small, misplaced keys, cars being moved without explanation, and odd messages left on the bulletin board, but it escalated quickly. One morning, Marcus arrived to find the dealership covered in graffiti, each spray-painted word a mocking jab at his leadership. Rage coursed through him as he surveyed the damage. "This is absurd," he shouted, fists clenched at his sides. "Who would do something like this?" Jenna stood beside him, shock etched across her face. "It has to be the intruder. They're trying to intimidate you, to make you feel like you're losing control," she said, her voice shaking. Marcus knew she was right. The pranks were a clear message that they were being watched, that the intruder would not let them succeed without a fight. But instead of cowering in fear, he felt a surge of determination rise within him. "We need to turn this around. We can't let them win," he declared, his voice steady. They quickly organized a team meeting to address the vandalism. Marcus stood in front of the employees, his heart pounding, but his voice strong. "I know things have been tough lately, but we can't let this destroy what we've built. We need to come together, stand united, and show them that we won't back down." Some employees exchanged skeptical glances, doubt still lingering in the air. But Marcus pressed on, drawing from the energy and enthusiasm that had sparked during the planning sessions. "We have an event coming up, and we need everyone on board. Let's turn this negative energy into something positive. Let's show the community and the intruder that we are more than just a dealership. We are a family." The words hung in the air, and slowly, he began to see the shift. Nods of agreement, whispers of support began to ripple through the room. Jenna caught his eye and gave him an encouraging smile, a reminder that they were all in this together. With renewed energy, they set to work. Flyers were designed, social media posts were scheduled, and word began to spread about their community event. The dealership buzzed with anticipation, and the once tense atmosphere began to lighten. Marcus could feel the support building, the energy shifting in their favor. Yet, as the day of the event approached, the intruder struck again, this time with more insidious tactics. Rumors began to swirl, whispers of distrust, infiltrating the dealership. Some employees began questioning Marcus's decisions, wondering if he was the right person to lead them through the turmoil. The night before the event, Marcus and Jenna met again to finalize the details. They were excited, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of unease. "What if they come after us during the event? What if they try to sabotage it?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," Jenna replied, her gaze steady. "We've worked too hard for this. We need to focus on the positives and show the community what we're capable of." As the day unfolded, the dealership transformed into a lively gathering space, filled with families eager to participate in workshops and activities. Marcus felt a swell of pride as he watched children giggle while navigating through safety courses and parents chatting happily with sales staff. They were creating connections, fostering relationships that transcended the walls of the dealership. But just as the day seemed to be going smoothly, a group of individuals arrived unannounced, their demeanor cold and menacing. Marcus's heart sank as he recognized them from previous encounters with the intruder. They stood at the edge of the lot, watching with a dispassionate gaze as the festivities unfolded. Feeling the pressure building, Marcus knew he had to act. He walked over to the group, determined to confront them head-on. "What do you want?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. One of the men stepped forward, a smug grin spreading across his face. "We just wanted to see how your little event is going. You know, it's hard to ignore the noise you're making. It's impressive, if only it were genuine," he taunted, his words dripping with disdain. Marcus felt anger bubbling within him. "We're here for the community, not to impress anyone. Your attempts to intimidate us won't work," he said, standing his ground. The man laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "You think this is just about intimidation? You're playing in a league far beyond your understanding, Marcus. You need to be careful about how you tread." The exchange hung in the air, the tension palpable as the crowd continued to enjoy the event, blissfully unaware of the confrontation taking place just a few yards away. Marcus felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on him, but he couldn't back down. "We're not afraid of you," he declared, his voice ringing with conviction. As he turned to walk back toward the event, he could feel the men's eyes on him, their presence a constant reminder that the conflict was far from over. The day passed in a blur of activities and interactions, but the shadows of doubt loomed over Marcus's mind, threatening to unravel everything he had worked for. In the weeks that followed the event, the intruder's influence seemed to intensify. Rumors began circulating not just within the dealership, but in the community as well. Some potential customers hesitated to engage with the dealership, swayed by whispers of uncertainty and distrust. Marcus knew he had to address the situation head-on. He organized a town hall meeting, inviting community members to discuss their concerns and share their experiences. The goal was to create an open dialogue and regain the trust that had begun to erode. But as he prepared for the meeting, anxiety gnawed at him. Would the community stand behind him, or would they be swayed by the intruder's lies? The day of the meeting arrived, and the room was filled with familiar faces. As he stood before the crowd, he felt a mix of determination and trepidation. "Thank you all for coming. "I want to address the concerns that have been circulating and clarify our commitment to this community," he began, his voice steady. As he spoke, he could see the skepticism etched on some faces, while others appeared genuinely interested. He shared the dealership's vision, the steps they were taking to improve customer experiences, and the importance of community engagement. But just as he was starting to feel the momentum building, a familiar face from the back interrupted. "What about the rumors? Why should we trust you when things are falling apart?" The voice challenged, echoing the doubts that had been festering. Marcus took a deep breath, recognizing the tension in the room. "I understand that trust takes time to rebuild, and I'm here to listen. If there are concerns, let's address them openly," he replied, feeling the weight of the moment bearing down on him. As discussions unfolded, some community members expressed their frustrations, while others defended Marcus and his team. The dialogue was raw and honest, revealing deep-rooted issues that had lingered for years. Marcus felt a sense of hope rising as he listened to their concerns, realizing that vulnerability could be a strength in this moment. Yet, even as progress seemed possible, the intruder's presence remained a constant threat, lurking just outside the walls of the dealership. Late one night, as Marcus worked late, he received an anonymous message on his phone. "You're playing a dangerous game, Marcus. Don't think we're done with you yet." The words sent a chill down his spine, the weight of fear and uncertainty settling heavily in his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over, and he knew he had to prepare for whatever was coming next. As he left the dealership that night, he felt a renewed sense of urgency, a determination to fight back against the shadows that threatened to engulf him. In the following weeks, Marcus delved deeper into the intruder's background, trying to piece together their motives and uncover any weaknesses he could exploit. He began researching their operations, following leads that could reveal their identity and provide a way to protect himself and the dealership. His investigation led him to discover that the intruder had connections not only within the automotive industry, but also with local political figures. This revelation sent a shiver down his spine as he realized the depths of the threat he was facing. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and he knew he needed to tread carefully. As Marcus uncovered more details, he became increasingly aware that the conflict was not just about him or the dealership. It was part of a larger game that involved power, influence, and a struggle for control. He couldn't shake the feeling that the intruder was always watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, Marcus met with Jenna to share his findings. "This isn't just about us anymore. The intruder has ties to people in power, and that complicates things," he said, frustration evident in his voice. Jenna listened intently, her brow furrowing in concern. "What can we do? It feels like we're fighting against something much bigger than ourselves," she replied, her tone thoughtful. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. "We have to be strategic. We can't just react. We need to anticipate their moves. If we can expose their tactics and rally the community around us, we might stand a chance." They began brainstorming ways to mobilize the community, to turn the tide in their favor. Together, they crafted a plan to share their story through social media, leveraging the support of loyal customers and community members who believed in their mission. They knew that building a strong network of advocates could help counteract the negative narratives being spun by the intruder. As the days turned into weeks, the tension continued to rise. The intruder made their presence known through subtle but disruptive tactics, leaks of confidential information, sabotage of community events, and even online harassment aimed at tarnishing Marcus's reputation. Each attack felt personal, as if they were trying to dismantle everything he had built. But Marcus refused to back down. With Jenna by his side, he organized a rally, inviting the community to come together and stand against the intruder's tactics. They focused on highlighting dealership's commitment to community, its dedication to excellence, and importance of supporting local businesses. The rally drew a crowd larger than he had anticipated, and as he stood on the stage, addressing the sea of faces, he felt a surge of hope. "Together, we can rise above the negativity and build a future that reflects our shared values. We are not just a dealership, we are a community," he declared, words echoing through the crowd. But just as momentum seemed to be shifting in their favor, the intruder struck again. This time, it was more insidious. They released a series of damaging articles online, weaving a narrative that questioned Marcus's integrity and painted him as a fraud. The articles spread like wildfire, igniting doubt and fear within the community. As comments poured in, Marcus's heart sank. He felt the ground beneath him shifting, the trust he had worked so hard to build crumbling in the face of a well-orchestrated smear campaign. Jenna stood beside him, her expression grave as they read through the comments together. "We have to respond. We can't let them control the narrative," Jenna urged, determination in her voice. "I know, but how do we fight against something so insidious? They're targeting our reputation, and it's working," Marcus replied, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. After hours of strategizing, they decided to take a proactive approach. They would create a video addressing the accusations head-on, sharing their story directly with the community. Marcus hoped that by being transparent and vulnerable, they could counteract the negative narrative and rebuild trust. In video, Marcus spoke candidly about the challenges they faced, hard work they had put into dealership, and importance of community support.